So, welcome to another gathering of the Earth Nouveau team here. And our today's topic is the art of reprogramming our DNA. And the topic came up because, I don't know how you guys see what's happening in the last couple of days, weeks, months here. There is a lot of talk about water, DNA, imprinting, the water that is imprinting information. And we obviously are 70, 80, 90, whatever percent water, our bodies. And there is this connection to the DNA. And the majority of people who watch our replays or come onto the show, they've been doing that reprogramming of our conditioning for many, many years now. So reprogramming our DNA is not something, it's part of the healing process, really. Soul surgery, any time of change that we create in our behavioral patterns, is a reprogramming of the DNA. But I think because of the energies, what's going on, and there is more openness to receiving that kind of information. So it's really coming forward. So this is our topic today, and we're going to have a little chat about that. The art of DNA programming. Who wants to chip in to kick it off?
So I thought the article that you posted, or the blog that you posted was really interesting, where the lady was talking about the Russian scientists who have been studying DNA. And so in the work I do, I always look at people's DNA code. And to me, it's really interesting because to me, it looks like, well, you have the double helix, right? Which is almost like a sheath, right, that goes around these bundles, and then rungs of the ladder, right? And the rungs of the ladder are the amino acids. They're the protein builders. So the adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, and they're nuclei with electrons, right? So they're atoms. They're cellular protein atoms that bind that ladder together. And so from my perspective, what I see is one of those strands is from the divine masculine energy, and one of the strands is from the divine feminine, or the mother side and the father side. And then they link together to form, our code. And oftentimes what I'll see when I'm looking at someone's DNA when they come in to see me for the first time is I'll see that their DNA is almost like encapsulated by, like, I don't know, a ball of oil or like darkness, and that there's an energetic binding around it that keeps it from structurally changing. And this is where that DNA reprogramming comes in. So what I do is I clean it, right? I make it so clean it so all of that like oil is off of it, and that the structure can then flex and flow and be filled with the person's source code light. And when that happens, it's almost like taking off a heavy winter coat that you haven't even known that you've been wearing your whole entire life. I think so. That's what I see from my perspective when I'm working on people. And that it can be, that change can be as simple as changing the way you think about yourself, right? We're talking about reprogramming the DNA. If every day of your life you're thinking to yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, then every situation you encounter, because we all know we create our realities, every situation you're going to encounter, you're going to find you're not going to measure up to other people's expectations or even your own expectations. But when you shift that thinking, it also shifts the encumbrance on the DNA code, because the DNA, it's going to respond to what you're thinking, what you're telling yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. And before we put the recording on, we were actually talking about very obvious changes that are happening at the moment in these new energies with all the solar flares and everything. We've mentioned the expression of what do we call it? Separation of density a lot, where, we're starting to really move away from signature frequencies, from people that are no longer, not just serve us, contribute to us, but also just really negatively or impact us on a level that does not inspire the greatness within ourselves. And I don't know how you perceive that reprogramming of DNA on a very practical basis. There's a lot of detachment going on at the moment. Detachment from, a partner that doesn't work anymore. Detachment from our old passions. I see a lot of that. A lot of that, what I used to do and I felt really passionate about and used to be a great contribution to myself and others, has completely dissipated, almost to the extent that we were saying early on that we just can't remember anymore that we used to even do it and how we used to do it. It's almost like the past is clearing so quickly. And I suppose it's clearing for all of us at the sped up level. And those that have done the work, that are familiar with change, that can embrace the change that is available to us now, that past is dissipating and releasing faster and faster and faster and faster. Do you find that?
I think from my own experience, what I'm finding is, in the last year or so, um, I've been regularly just declaring my sovereignty in alignment with the highest good of Gaia and the light, my team of light, and stating that anything that's not for my greatest good, the greatest good of Gaia, the greatest good of all, leave my energy field now. And it's been really interesting. I've had a lot of clients who I had saw regularly for like the past 5 or 6 years. I'm no longer seeing, right? A lot of friends, like when I try to get together with them, they flake, they just don't show up, right? And so, I'm seeing a lot of things like that. But then I'm spending more time with other people in my
Mm,
life, and I'm, having now new regular clients who are in support of that statement, in support of that highest good of earth. And so, I'm really seeing that separation very, very strongly.
mm. It's almost like we used to get triggered so much, right? Or like, remember the mirror principle, which is still a very powerful tool to use for reflections, not for judgment, obviously, but for reflection and seeing in others what sort of describes yourself, be that a habit pattern, be that, something that you want to strive towards or what you want to get away from, that kind of thing. And of course that pattern has just expanded into the universal scope, really, because everything is opening up. So those triggers, the less triggers, things are no longer that significant, I feel, and it's almost like that we talk about the reality changing, and things from the past don't seem real.
Mm.
It's almost like, yeah, we talk about it, but there's no energy in it. It's got no density to it. So the realness of that reality is almost unreal for where we are now. And I love
Mhm.
what you said, Tanya, because you said other people are already coming in. So the deprogramming opens the space for the new programming. And when we say programming, I think we need to probably change the name because it's got such a sort of negative, sense to it. But it's actually what's a better word for programming? It's what is it? What's the word? Better way for programming. What can we use? Because program's got such a negative sort of stench to it. Not fortification. Is it fortification?
Recalibration? No?
Love that. Recalibration is a cool one. To recalibrate and allowing that new energy that comes towards us, as Tanya said, in terms of new people, new ideas, and of course, new passions. New passions. I've started painting. I think I've been doodling. I've been doing my doodle art for 4 years now. But now, for some reason, I sat in the garden one day and something said to me, "Hi, Jen. I've got my yoga studio in the back that I haven't done any yoga in the studio for some time." And something said to me, "Art studio." And I'm like, "You're joking. Art studio." And I said, "Okay, that's it." I got up, immediately went into the house because I've been collecting acrylic paints and oil paints and all sorts of things and canvases. Not just, I started over paint canvases, old canvases over painting. And I put everything into the new art studio. And then it started to throw me. And I sent a couple of messages on Facebook and that, because, when I do my doodles, I do that in a little notebook kind of thing, right? And it's really relaxing. And it's only one pen I use, black and white. And all of a sudden there's this canvas. And there's all these different paints that I had collected. And there's like, okay, let's start. So much came in the first 2 days. I was so confused. I was frustrated. I was confused. I was disoriented. And I thought, what the hell is going on? I'm like a big picture person, right? So why can't I paint on a big canvas? What is going on? Now, I took a piece of paper and I sat down, and that's part of this DNA reprogramming, because I said, okay, what is this? And then I started realizing that there were thousands of artist versions of myself. As I opened the canvas to a bigger canvas, all of a sudden, everyone wanted to come and play. And I thought, whoa, it totally foxed me. I had no idea how to do it because I didn't know what was going on. And then I said, okay, guys, that's it. First of all, there were thousands. And I said, we got to be serious here. So who wants to really stay? And then I cleared the majority of them just by saying, you know what, this is not going to work. I can't be the hub of interconnectivity for 1,000. Not at this stage of my painting game, where I'm just starting, right, with a big canvas. And the majority released, and then I had 5 left. 5. One of them was a flow guy who was working with the flow of the painting. The other one was the color guy. And I say guy, they were all guys, interestingly enough. They all came through as male, just to make it even more harder for me as the female avatar, to put them into their place. It was hilarious. The third one came in, and he was a tough one because he was a 15th century UK painter, famous. I say Turner now, I don't even know it was a 15, but he knew how to literally paint. And I said, this is not what we're going to do, because I don't know how to properly draw. It's got to be contemporary. All right. And he said, okay, I'm staying because maybe I can learn the contemporary art. So he keeps on chipping in all the time because he's struggling with not, making nice faces and proper eyes and all of that. So that was the third one. And what's the other one? There was another one. I can't remember now. So there were another 5, and then after I had put the law of the painting as 1 down, you know, the 5th one said, okay, I'm out of here. This is by far too controlling for me. And I said, has nothing to do with controlling. I'm starting this business here now for myself, and I need to somehow, we need to, in the beginning, it was like everyone got their own canvas. So I had 5 canvases. That's why I'm producing like this, like compulsively. You know, everyone wanted their own canvas because I could not bring everyone into the same thing. And after like a week and a half now, we're finally getting to a stage where we can all come together, not fight each other, and actually, you know, start doing something together. And of course, it's a process. But why am I mentioning this? Because it's the art of DNA programming. It is an art. And anyone here who's done any kind of art, and Jen, I'm going to wait for you to chip in just now. It threw me. It totally threw me until I did this kind of, it's a soul surgery, yeah, kind of exercise. And I had to write down all the things and work with all the different charts and acknowledge that I've been an artist. I've had many, many artist versions. And some of them super aggressive, and they had to leave. I can't have that. So we were talking about separation of density, detachment, as above, so below, or, you know, we can't have that. We have to choose the people, the shards, the soul shards, parts, avatars that want to work with us and create together. Not hardship, not fighting, no competition, like Tanya says, sovereignty. And then think about that. You know, we talk about communities, we talk about hubs of interconnectivities. There's me sitting in that studio talking to myself, screaming at this shot, as this shot, you know, no, we're not doing this. I'm so glad the cats are with me, because the cats are like, oh, okay, calm down.
Well,
So
I'm so disappointed that I was just in the UK and I didn't get to come play, but now I got to come back to the UK to play in your art studio.
we must do another one. But next time you come and you don't do your you know, wild things, and you come and spend some time properly with me.
I will. I'm gonna do that. I grabbed this one. I just brought it out of the painting studio a few minutes ago, but it looks almost just like Tanya's background. I just finished it
Amazing.
ago. And I was actually gonna embellish it with streaks coming out of it, like your lightning streaks. So very
Oh,
similar.
that's interesting because I see a dragon. I see the face where your hand is below, like
Yeah.
he's going down that way.
But you need to try fluid art, Martina, because it's so freeing. Like you have no real control over it other than your color selection, and it just really takes the mind out of it and lets the artist within really just go.
Yeah.
And when it comes to all those other parts, because sometimes you'll come in with a different aspect of you that wants to release something through the art, and so you just let whoever comes in have their moment. And when they start getting aggressive, like you said, if you're not having fun, then walk away from it, because like it's supposed to be a release and fun. I'll walk you guys back to my painting studio if you want, because it's in the office.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's going.
Absolutely. Well, there is this, you know, so much coming in, so many ideas, so many different ways of doing it. And then my usual thing, of course, where, you know, I don't allow myself to slow down. And also, I don't want to look at tutorials. You know, it's like I just want to do everything just naturally. But sometimes, you know, by taking away the structure completely, you are also taking away opportunities to slow down, really. So let's see what Jen is showing us here. Oh, wow, she's got the art studio in the office, so that's very good. Okay. Oh gosh, yeah, the mess. I can see that in my studio already. Gosh. Fantastic, because you do a lot of pouring, right? Pouring of the colors. Fabulous. Well, look at that. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing with the DNA. Oh, beautiful.
And those are acrylics, yeah?
Acrylics, yeah, probably I have all sorts of things, but acrylics are quite cool to play with, and also because you can just use the water, it dissolves nicely and cleans nicely. Wow.
Cool.
So
Thanks for
maybe
sharing
maybe
that.
what Jen can do is talk so that I can open my screen bigger so I can actually see the pictures. Jen, rather than you talking to Martina, because then the camera is focused on you and not on her
It
studio.
shouldn't be focused on me.
Well, when
If
you're
you click,
talking,
if you click on your view, you should be able to choose gallery, and then you can see all the
Yeah,
pictures at
I
once,
did.
Lana.
I
Okay.
did, but it was still even on my
Oh, too
screen.
small.
You know,
Too
it's
small.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
too small. I really couldn't see the paintings and stuff like that.
So maybe you'll just have to take some photos and post them for us, Jen.
I can just now hear you guys.
yeah. She couldn't.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Lana was having a hard time seeing on the little screen, so maybe
Yeah,
you
I
can
couldn't
take some
either.
photos and
I'm on
post
the
them.
phone, so I couldn't see it either.
Okay, I'll post some pictures with the recording, but like it's a mess, I guess was my point. It's a mess and it just,
We picked up the mess, yes.
yeah.
But that's how it has to be. It has
Yeah.
to be, because you have to have everything available, right? So what we're talking about, the art of DNA reprogramming or programming. How does that work? What comes up for you, Jen, when you think of the art, of your art? And you've been doing that for quite some time as well now. How does that, how has the art helped you with the art of programming your DNA?
So I loved art when I was younger, when I was in high school, and then I put it aside. I mean, I graduated high school in 1995, and not yesterday. And I didn't pick it back up until the end of 2019, and it was because like I was getting into energy work. I had been working with my records for a couple of years, and in a session where I was reading my records, they told me that I needed to get back into art. I had to start drawing again, and I needed to post it for two purposes. One, as an exercise in letting go of like self-judgment, like it really helped me with non-judgment, not judging my work, but also that there would be information in my art that helped other people. And so I took that to heart, and I set a goal for 2020 of filling 2 sketchbooks with it. I ended up filling 3. And to me, like just that exercise of almost every night, like my way to decompress after work was to draw. And it really put me in no time. When I sit down to draw, like I instantly now drop into no time. It helped with a lot of DNA memory. So like the more that I would sit in that energy, the more I think a DNA activation I got of all the, because DNA is 90% memory, right? Like lifetime to lifetime, we carry that memory in our DNA. We just don't access it. We don't activate it. And so art gave me the means of activating it just by that physical act of bringing that energy into my physical body and bringing it into the physical world. And so I would almost say that it helped me deprogram, because it brought more of all of me into this body instead of being run by the programs that I had inherited living in this lifetime. It helped me shed those programs and be more of who I am inherently across all lifetimes, because it's in my DNA. So I would say more of a DNA deprogramming.
Definitely. I can say that because of the triggers that, and that like, whoa, that kind of thing. But wouldn't you also say that because you said you've been asked to host your paintings because there's a lot of information in it. So there comes the programming as well, right? Or the recalibration we said.
Yeah, all of that carries through the image. And so it's amazing to me what people pick up out of a symbol that you post or a drawing, that they can feel what you felt while you were drawing that. And to me, I always love when people in my 3D world start to shift because of what they see in those images. And so asphalt contractors starting to talk about the moon and the eclipse and all the what ifs and the different things that they see, like a retired sheriff messaging me about what he sees in my drawings, and very like etheric drawings, not just a drawing of like an apple, but something that he doesn't necessarily understand, but it sparks him. And so I love to see other people start to shift and their DNA awaken just because of the energy in an image that's out there.
Fabulous, fabulous.
There's an artist, a Japanese artist, I can't remember her name, Yayoi, something, but she has an exhibition going in at the MoMA. I think it starts on June 22nd. But there was one piece, I went with my sister, who's also a really beautiful artist. And she had one giant piece of ceramic art that was installed already. And it was called Pumpkins. And she had written something about the pumpkins, about how she had written a poem about the pumpkins. And it's something to the effect of how, they make her happy and they make her see the world in a different way. And, the smell and the shape and the color is always inspiring for her. And these pumpkins they didn't really look like pumpkins. They looked like yellow polka dot, black and yellow polka dot. It's like a giant, I mean, if you were like this tall walking through a pumpkin patch, they might look like pumpkins. But it was a really interesting piece, but I could tell, as people interacted with it, because you could walk around, and it was kind of, going in and out and just in this big space, that people were just really fascinated with this art installation and the way they could, I mean, you couldn't touch it. Well, I guess you could, but you could sort of like interact with it. And depending upon where you were standing, you had a different view of the shape and the style and the polka dots. And it was just a really interesting experience to witness people, experiencing that piece, because I could tell it was energetically shifting them somehow. I mean, I don't really know how, but I think art does have the ability to do that, to awaken you, or to change, to change your perception, to change your perspective, which then, of course, ripples through your DNA code.
Yeah.
If it's not all locked down.
I was talking to somebody last week. We were talking about how we got started in our awakening, and I mean, like I've gone through a few awakenings in this lifetime, but like the most recent one, it was hearing Santos Bonacci, and it wasn't really at all what he said. He talks about the stargates and the alignment of everything, and Jacob's ladder. Very hard to process, but just his voice really helped me shift and just wake up. And then I got into listening to AB stuff, and then Martina started to join AB stuff, and just your voice really helped, because we end up, in these soul families, and we start to hear and connect with those core people in our soul family, that it just shifts you. It helps you wake up. And I understand that's part of my role going forward too. And I'm not great with words. I don't really like to talk as much, but I do that through images, and I can program an image to have that frequency and that intent of, depending on who sees it, what they see. And I think that's what you're picking up on in that painting. I have an owl painting. It's about 3 foot by 4 foot that I did in the other room in the office here. And I did that painting because we didn't have art in the office that was our company logo colors. And so I did that owl in our company logo colors. And of course, Thompson orange is one of the big colors. So its eyes are orange. And it's funny because I have a big geode that sits on the credenza under it. And there's a lady that works in the office. She's in her 70s and she's from Iraq. She's a highway design engineer, very Catholic, but she's like everybody's mother. She may seem such a mom. She was walking back to her office one day and she's like, Jennifer, come here. What is it? And she was like, it's a miracle. And so she started, like, she showed me walking around the office that it's a Keokuk geode. It's white with like orange nodules inside. And like the two nodules in the geode like perfectly reflect the eyes of the owl. And she's like, did you paint that intentionally? And I'm like, well, no, I mean, I painted it in the back room. But the two combined were what shifted her. And then she started to have dreams and she started to do predictions. And it's just funny. It's funny how it all works together, how people experience the magic just by being immersed in the frequency of it.
Beautiful.
I love that. I had a really interesting experience visiting my family. So my mom is really into ancestral lineage and has, with the help of the DAR, who are the Daughters of the American Revolution, has traced our lineage back to a gentleman who fought with George Washington at Valley Forge. And so she was able to join this organization because that's the criteria. You have to have someone who I guess fought for the country before the revolution or during the revolution. And so my sister and I went to this meeting with her, and it's interesting, because it's a lot of United States sort of military programming. And so as I was, I'm always of the vein where I observe and report. So as they were doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and they were doing the American's Creed, I could see energy being harvested. It's almost like higher frequency beings who just take a giant straw and, okay, this is your belief system that's driving this energy that I can harvest, right? So as I'm witnessing, one lady comes up, and I mean, she's like a fourth golden age elf. I see her and I saw her. And so I was looking at her and I was seeing her and I was seeing all of her Native American past lifetimes. And I was seeing her lifetimes as an elf during the fourth golden age, like think about Lord of the Rings. And I was seeing her as, her multidimensional being as an Arcturan royalty being of light, right? That's meant to. And she couldn't stop looking at me. She was just like totally distracted because I was reflecting her back to her. And then here's my sister on the other side, and we talked about it after. She's like, yeah, that lady couldn't stop looking at you. And you were really distracting her. I don't know what was going on. So my sister was observing me, observing her. And it was just a really funny situation because here this lady who's in her 80s, I think she just had a massive spiritual awakening right that day that shook her out of that programming in a way that she couldn't account for or couldn't expect. So, we all have the ability when we hold space like that to be able to shift people, even when they are stuck in that programming, and the ancestral programming, right? Like my dad was in the military, my grandfather was in the military. And so there's that energy within, like my dad, right, that has made the vows and agreements. And, whether he will detach from that or not, TBD. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see right, that can be carried through the DNA code, right? The vows and agreements that your ancestors made, right, can carry through your DNA code. And if you don't release those vows and agreements, then that's going to be running you just like a computer program runs on your phone, an app runs on your phone or a program runs on your computer.
It's like, go, Jen.
And it goes back to doing the contract revocations, to really say it out loud and set that intention of you saying it.
Yeah.
Tanya, I like that example as well, because, I mean, the computer is like, DNA is like information, memory is information, all of that. But what you've just beautifully described was, we don't have to sit in front of the computer and actually use our fingers, to deprogram and reprogram, and that kind of action is not required. It's actually, the change happens in the beingness. As all you did was just sitting there and observe and allow the information to just download, basically, without, and again, very important, you didn't go in and, try to get that information out. You didn't interfere, you didn't entangle with it. You were just being your sacred neutral self, and that was actually what created the change for that other lady. And that's an important thing to, when we start working with other people, and especially now where lots of people no longer doing the old way of healing. You're still a healer, but it gets to a stage where you just have to acknowledge wherever you go now, whatever you observe, you are impacting without entangling. So you give people the choice, hold the space for them to make the changes if they wish to do so. That's
she might not ever understand what happened, and she might not ever make any changes. But at least I think she got to see herself through my eyes. Or reflected from what I was seeing.
I think there's this, especially now in these new energies where, we sort of find ourselves, some of us find ourselves floating at times, just coming back to the acknowledgement that you're doing so much work by not doing the old work. You're doing the new work, right? And it's almost like, I was talking to somebody the other day about happiness. And as we were talking, happiness has never had a real energy for me anyway, because of the bastardization of the word itself. But now it's like, to do an affirmation of I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy makes absolutely no sense whatsoever with regards to deprogramming or programming your DNA, because we need to find new words for that new energy. That happiness, that old happiness, is no longer what makes us happy in this new energy. So affirmations, and you said it, Jen, as well. I mean, sound, music, all of that, but it's no longer, we have to be really, really careful with the old words, the old jargon, because they actually program or keep the programming in place. Like you say, Tanya, there's this sheath, that oily sheath around it that doesn't allow the frequency and the vibration to change because of that. So sometimes
it doesn't allow in the light.
Yeah. Less is best. Less is best.
And maybe this is where we really invoke the 1,000,000-letter alphabet, because we learn to express things in different ways, through colors, through images, through an expression, just through emanating something as you walk through a crowd, like it doesn't have to be a spoken word. And I say that as my programming, because I don't want to have to talk. But it's all of it.
Yeah. I mean, the 1,000,000-letter alphabet, they're actually not letters. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so much more beyond that. But that reminds me of something, because in that article, they talked about 10% of our DNA being activated, right? And 90% not. A bit like we can only see, what, 10% of the universe, and everything else is black hole business. You know, and they're obviously starting to calibrate and change all of that, because they're starting to realize that actually the information in the 90% DNA or universe is that information that we have access to, those infinite possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, all they're looking at are the outer sheaths of the
Yes.
DNA bundle and the amino acids, the proteins. Right, that's it. And that's what the TAGC is. When you see like someone's DNA code, that's the proteins. Yeah.
Mm.
It's just a sequence of proteins that give you certain traits, right? So when they're studying DNA and looking at changing the genome, they're not even looking inside those bundles, which are like coaxial cables that have more cables inside. You know, if you cut like a cable in half and see like the bundle, you know, that's what it looks like to me. But it's almost like the rivers of light, rivers of electric, magnetic light. It's
So
very
can I
exciting.
share? Can I share something you're making me think about, Tanya, as you were talking about the lady that you just mentioned? She was just staring at you.
Yeah.
So you're making me think of something right now that is slightly different. So this weekend in our city here, it was citywide garage sales. So my next door neighbors, two of them had garage sale going on at the same time. And I happened to be outside and I saw this friend of mine that was at the garage sale. So I went over and I was chatting with her. And she said to me, well, I haven't gone to the other one yet. Let's go over to the other one. So I said, okay, let's go. So I went over with her and I saw something there that I wanted to get, but I didn't have any money on me. So I said to the owner of the garage sale, let me run back home and get some money. I'll come right back and I'll pay you for what I'm getting. And as I came back, my friend was taking a picture with this young girl, right? And she said to me, do you know who this is? And I'm looking at the person. I'm like, is that your daughter? And she's like, no, this is so and so. But I won't mention the names of the people. But it was one of American Idol from a few years ago. And when she mentioned the name, I recognized her right away. But there was a guy that was with her. And I looked at the guy, and as soon as I looked at him, it's like I recognize him, like I know him from somewhere. Like I've always known him, and his face looks so familiar to me. And I didn't pay much more attention because I was too busy with Miss America Idol, you know, and chatting with her and trying to take a picture and all that. But when I was looking at the guy, he was just very quiet because nobody was really making any fuss over him. But it turns out, Jen, he's from Tennessee, and he's kind of famous in your part of the world. He's a famous singer, guitar player, and all that. But I'll mention it to you off the show who he is. So, but the point is, when I'm looking at him, I'm like, as soon as I saw him, I recognized him. And I'm thinking to myself, now that you're talking about this lady, did I recognize his DNA? Like somebody that I've always known. Because I don't know this guy. I never saw him in my life. I'm not even aware of his existence, you know, as a musician or anything like that. But it's probably something that we naturally do and we don't realize it. When we see someone that we known from the past or something like that.
You know, in past life regression, people will recognize people from their current lifetime in these other lifetimes. And I always tell them, just, you know, expand your heart out, even though they'll look different, you'll be able to pick up on it. And I always just assumed it was like the signature frequency of those people on a soul level, but
Yeah. No, I'm so sorry that I didn't.
memory.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have a chat with him because we all ignored him. But he's like, he looked like, immediately I saw him, like, I know you. In my mind, I'm saying this, you know, I know you, but I don't, not in this lifetime.
Would
And I
you?
never saw him on TV or anything like that. But when I looked him up, I Googled who he was. Then I realized, you know, he's kind of famous and all that. He's toured and stuff like that with famous musicians and things like that. But it's a face that I would never forget. If I see him again, I'll recognize him. But if I see American Idol, Miss American Idol, I probably would forget her if she changed her looks or something like that. She doesn't have that face that stands out to me all the time. But his face is so distinct that I know it. Like I won't forget it.
It's almost like Lana. It's almost like X-ray vision. You know, we're starting all to have X-ray vision, and you know, you probably had a full-on conversation with him in on a slightly different realm, whilst you were actually just looking at him, and you know, consciously you know, ignoring him or not speaking to him. But you know, this brings us to us being portals. Tanya, you wanted to throw that in because it sounds very much like, you know, your cells have recognized him. It's like no longer a thought as such, but that feeling sense, that X-ray feeling sense of your cells that we are portals, right? And just by simply observing somebody, we can just hone in to all those different dimensional realms.
You know, Lana, I've had similar experiences just watching, you know, a movie or a TV show, right? Where I'll see like an actor or an actress and I'll feel that like energetic resonance of shared DNA. It's like, okay, maybe that ancestor was 6 generations back, but there's a memory. And I think that's where the portal comes in, because that creating a portal within the DNA for all of that shared ancestral connection, you know, you recognize those people as family, recognize like an energetic resonance of similarity. And then you can energetically, you know, reach out or connect in that way too, if you're so inclined to do that. And that's, you know, opening up the portal of the DNA and saying, okay, any ancestor who wants to connect with me now, right? If you have my greatest good at heart, right? Any ancestor who doesn't, get the heck out. But
Yeah, let's actually, that's a great example here, and let's actually expand that to our hubs of interconnectivity that are versions of ourselves that are, you know, some included in the ancestry, but let's just take them out for clarity's sake. Our future versions, shards, parts, avatars, you know, the soul, we can have so many. It's not just us living here, boots on the ground. So it could well be that this person was a very, very connected DNA, like Tanya said, you know, to your soul DNA connected.
Yeah, you never know, right?
Because, you know, I also think talking about the programming, the art of programming now is as we're letting go of those that do not inspire us anymore, we're having more encounters with those that do inspire us. And there are quite a few that are in body. And of course, there are also those that are outside of body. And I think anyone who does art or music or something along those lines, you know, beyond the thinking level, encounters those beings. I mean, even in my drawings, there's always a face. There's always faces in it, you know, and I have no idea who those beings are. And I was almost thinking the other day as I was drawing, because, you know, I'm working towards the being the beacon of light, to bring the beings into this realm, to physically manifest. And I think the whole purpose for me to start the painting on that level is the next level of allowing them to come through, not just on the picture. You know, that's why, you know, so many of those paintings that I do, well, I only started, but, you know, it's like, oh, that's an alien, that's an alien, that's an alien, you know. Emma says, no, that's a baboon. I said, okay, it's an alien. No, it's like, you know, but that doesn't matter what it is, but I have the feeling. And that's why I think sometimes I have this overwhelming, oh, I have to paint, they want to come through, which is obviously not necessarily the case, just my sort of OCD. But anyway, fantastic. Now, that was art. We lost Mary now, unfortunately, because she's an artist too. So it would have been nice, good to hear her take on the DNA programming, deprogramming. But let's take it to the net. Is there anything else we want to talk? Oh, is there anything else we want to say about that?
Well, I did want to say one more thing, is that I did have one sentence with the person, right? And then the person replied to me. So in that sense, the connection, if there is a portal there between the two of us from ancient times, it was made, the connection was made. Because we directly spoke to each other. So I asked him a question and he replied, no, I'm not. That person, you know. And he was very quick to answer me. He didn't hesitate. He knew, he kind of read my mind, sort of, I would say, as to what the question was, because I didn't finish the question. And he answered no.
Right.
So to me, that now I'm thinking about it again, it made the connection even more solidified, you know, that perhaps it is an ancient connection, and I recognize him immediately. And he didn't wait for me to finish the sentence, and he answered me back right away, like he knew what I was going to finish off with. And that was about it.
I think you said he was a musician or something. So maybe listening to his music could help to, you know, not intensify, but, you know, have further conversations with him through his music, maybe.
I don't think that he's personally, he plays like an individual musician. He plays with a band or some. I'll have to look into it a little more.
Even if you don't have another connection in the physical with this person, like Martina said, just if he's part of that core soul family, just hearing his music could help you remember things that you didn't know that you didn't remember. But as soon as you started talking about him, Lorna, I looked down at your photo that comes up on the screen, and I saw a face that came through like the shadow of your things. I went to pick up my phone to take a picture of it so that I could send it to you later, what I see. And as soon as I picked up my phone, it was 1:11. I don't know, it's just funny.
Say that again. I didn't understand what you said.
1:11 when I picked up my phone to take a picture of your picture to show you the face that I see in your shadow. Going back to what Martina was saying about letting the beings come through. When I started drawing a lot, the dragons came in a lot, and they wanted me to draw them so that they could come through in the physical. So I did that a lot. And they come through the paintings too, just like Tanya was saying, that she sees the dragon in them. Like, whatever's in my frequency, whatever's visiting with me that day, always what comes through the paint. And the reason why I like the acrylic pours, because it allows whatever's around me energetically to come through instead of me trying to force something with my hands that I want to see.
So when I was in Texas a while back here, and I was in going, me and my cousin, we were in the town and we were going to these different art galleries. So I took this one photograph that somebody painted in black and white. It was the same style of artwork that reminds me of the kind of work you do, Martina. And I was intending to send you the picture, which I will here. Now I'm remembering about it. When I took the picture of the state itself of Texas, of that piece of artwork, I saw in the picture itself, right above like where the edge of the frame would be, there is like a shadow of something, and it's not even a shadow, but there was something that came through in the picture that reminded me of a dragon. And I said, I'm gonna have to share this with you guys to show you if you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. But it was weird that actually came into the picture, because it wasn't on the wall or anything like that.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Lana. I think that's going to happen more and more to us, you know, that the veil is getting so much thinner, or, you know, disappearing, that we're starting to paint, see, hear, feel, you know, the multitude of the dimensional visitors, possibilities, versions, all of it. Jen, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just scratching.
Okay,
I
but
think Tanya was going to say something a minute ago.
Oh, yeah, I just, I was going to say, just going back to portals and with the
Right.
DNA code, my hairdresser, who has a lot of ancestral trauma. And, you know, we've done trades for years, and one of the things that she's had all kinds of gut issues. I mean, all kinds of issues, but as she's transmuting through her DNA code, one of the things she talks about is a portal in her gut that was from her ancestral lineage, right? Where her ancestors were trying to basically like throw all of their karma into her belly, like through the sacral chakra. And so that caused all kinds of physical problems for her growing up. And has, you know, finally now she's decoded what was happening and was able to, you know, start to sort through those lines of karma and sort through, you know, how it's affecting her in her physical body. So that's just, you know, one example of something that can happen when your ancestors don't do their work, right, and kick that can down the road to land on your doorstep. You know, in her case, in her sacral chakra.
Well, this is important, really, when we talk about DNA programming, reprogramming, because it's really solar plexus, sacral, that's really intestine, streaming body, portals. As soon as we leave our body, streaming body moves through an array of different portals, all these different realms. And, you know, this is still something which we haven't, I think the majority of the population hasn't really taken on board how important sovereignty during the dream state actually is, you know, and understanding. And I think that all goes back to not you know, pondering onto the mind at all, but an understanding of how understanding of realities and understanding of spirituality and understanding of who we actually are as human beings, because that will then lead us into certain actions or non-actions and be much more not vicious, that's not the word, more perceptive and more careful, really, what we're putting ourselves into. Absolutely. And it is the solar plexus where we are creating our relationships. And this is how this is where we have to uncreate the relationships that are no longer working and recalibrate. It's all happening in the solar plexus. And this is why so many issues are occurring in that space. And then if the solar plexus is cleared and recalibrated and aligned, then, you know, all the other chakras can do their work properly. Then the heart can go out and exponentialize those. The heart will go out exponentializing those any kind of relationships, the good ones and the bad ones, because it makes no difference. So it is really everyone's responsibility to clear out the solar plexus and to get have an understanding of how this all works. And this is why the reprogramming and the deprogramming of our DNA is an art. It is an art.
I think, you know, looking at the solar plexus, when I'm working on people, the majority of energy cords are going into the solar plexus and going out from the solar plexus also. You know, anytime someone is corded into you, likely you're corded into them as well. You know, and the cords that are coming in look gold to me, and the cords that are going out look silver and like fishing hooks, you know, hooked in. So, you know, if you haven't gotten an energy clearing or a chakra clearing and a cord cutting, do it. You know, find a practitioner who does it, you know, and do it.
Do it
Because it's
then
going to shift your perspective about who you are, right? When you have so many other people's energy up in your energy space, you know, whether it be emotional energy that's stuck up in your aura, whether it's energy cords, you can't get a measure of who you are. Just when you have you know, when you're so programmed by global narrative or your ancestral DNA, you following those directives instead of following your higher frequency directive.
Absolutely. And it's key for us to move that solar plexus activity up into the heart and then to work from the heart space, right? Because it's key for manifestation. It's key for instant manifestation. If anyone is interested in that, we have to align ourselves. We have to be coherently aligned. And yes, we talked about female, male, and all of that, and it's all part of it. It's all part of the so we can't separate just one chakra because we have to work with all of them together.
Yeah, we work holistically as a whole system. And if your mind is thinking you want to manifest and some energy is going this way, and your solar plexus energy is going this way, and your heart energy is going this way, you know, your gut energy is going a different way, no wonder you can't manifest, you know, because the universe is getting different messages.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is sometimes how I feel when I draw. Especially in the beginning. Oh my God. But anyway, so I wanna add, let's move on from the art of DNA programming, deprogramming, travel, picking up soul codes. Jen, you've just had a great travel. You've been back to the UK. How was that? What comes to mind when I ask you about travel and the art of deprogramming DNA and programming DNA? How does travel, physical travel, actually help with that?
Well, for me, the last year traveling, like nothing is by accident, you know, like you plan a trip and you just pick places to stop along the way to spend the night or to visit, things like that. And like those places for me, I could drop into the last lifetime that I was there and pick up those parts of me. It wasn't quite as potent this trip as it was the trip that I took to the UK last fall. I think more because not because it wasn't as potent, but like it wasn't such a surprise to me. Last year was more of a surprise to me, and I didn't expect it, but I was already acclimated to that energy. Like particularly Scotland, like my heart is so happy in Scotland because I know the energy of that land so well that I synchronize to it really easily. As soon as I step foot on it, I'm home and I love it. I love all the parts of Scotland that I've been. I went to Thingles Cave this time, and I remembered a lifetime where I got married in Thingles Cave. And so while I'm standing there in the cave, even though there's all kinds of people there that are talking, I hear music. Like that's what I heard in the cave was music. And I was just so joyful on that whole island, and especially in the cave. I don't know, you pick up all those parts of yourself and they feel so potent. We stopped at Lancaster Castle coming back down, and it was funny because the person that I was traveling with, like, we get into the castle, we got there like 30 minutes before it closed, so they didn't charge us for entry. We walked into the first exhibit and it's all about witch trials. He's laughing at me like, oh, of course it's a witch, you were here as a witch. And I'm reading all the signs and I was like, well, what me, it was you. You know, like I were here, but I was there in that lifetime, and I knew exactly what I did because it was my sisters that got captured, and it was my fire witch life, and I came in there and I set fire to a lot of people. And it was interesting too, because, you know, like I'm such a soft person now, and I have a very clear standard of ethics. Like I'm very, very clear, but I had no guilt associated with watching what I had done in that lifetime. I watched it with complete neutrality and almost like, you know, retribution, they deserved it. That's how I got it to stop. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, 5 years ago, I probably would have really judged myself for it, but I just looked at it like, yeah, moved on. So, I have a lot of literal remembering. I don't know if a lot of people do, but I definitely feel it in my cells because I buzz. When I get in certain places, even going to, is it Stratham on the way up to Scotland that's still part of England? We visited that castle, we didn't go in, but while we were just walking in the premises, like my palms started to pulse. So like I'll have a physical response to certain locations. That's my DNA activating, reminding me that I've been there and that that's an important location for me. Being up on top of Old Man of Store too was a similar physical visceral response, and you know, talking about the cords, I had entanglements there that had really held me back, and so I was able to free myself of some things that were confining me in that space. So when you go to travel someplace, it's not random why you select where you're going. If you just open yourself up to the possibility of it and feel into it, play with it and explore it. I mean, you don't have to take it to an extreme level, but you see what comes up. Watch for the little responses in your body.
And listen for the memories. You know, when you, like, I remember before I was right around the time I was attuned to Reiki and I got married, we went on our honeymoon to the South Pacific, to the Society Islands, Tahiti, not Tahiti, Bora Bora and Moorea. And being in Moorea, we went into the center of the crater, and there was this, I don't know, these, I don't know, like rock, almost sort of like bleachers. And I was just really guided to go sit down in this space. And it was like a former like native village area with some of the structures. And I just had to go sit down in this one place. And as I sat there, I saw like a movie of being there in, you know, past times as part of like the Royal Council of, you know, elders that was, you know, witnessing what was happening with the people. You know, so just having that memory sitting in that space, right, caused caused me to have like cascading memories of a lot of different lifetimes that sort of came up to the surface from just that one experience.
Absolutely.
Really is amazing.
So this is, you know, when you do, especially when you do feel the invitation, there's a draw to it, you know, and it might not make any sense. Or why do I have to go to India? Why do you have to go even, you know, within your own country? You know, it's sometimes I think this invitation could be taken serious. Just go and see what happens, you know. Absolutely. And I think we go through stages as well. I mean, I've had 2 years or 1 year where I just had to travel, and I did so many countries at the same time. And then, you know, I can be like hermity for another year or two, you know. And, you know, I say it's OCD, but it's not. It's just following the energy, you know. And I know I won't paint for the rest of my life, and I won't be one of those amazing, super, you know, because it's, I never say never, of course, but do it because you want to do it, not being attached to the outcome. I don't care, you know, what happens to the canvases, if I hang them up, if I give them to somebody, if I sell them or not. That's not the point. You know, it's really, really, really important to just, with the DNA is programmed. We programmed it over lifetimes, as we've already said. We've programmed it after our revisions, reviews, you know, we programmed it with a certain purpose to come onto this planet, right? So all we need to do is to get rid of the oily paste, the sheath that Tanya was talking about, and everything else will just unfold by itself. So if there is a draw, something that draws you towards something, then do it. Go OCD. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. And if it stops, it stops. It's okay.
Have fun with it. I always tell people, just have fun with it. Like,
Have fun with it. And, you know, I can add to this even because in the beginning, it might not be fun. It wasn't fun in the first 2 days. It was like, I was stressed out. But I had to do it. I knew I had to do it. There was a knowing that I had to do it. And it totally took me by surprise. I didn't realize I had to do this as part of art therapy. But there's a knowingness that drives you. And that knowingness is an inner understanding of your purpose. And if you ask me, what is the purpose of doing it? I just know I have to do it to deprogramming the DNA and see where it leads us. And it is art, music, you know, anything that is beautiful, that shows us the beauty of living life, natural. That is what's coming in. It's part of the new energy that is coming in. But you can't force yourself doing it. But if it knocks on your door, open the bloody door and let it in. Now we've got Mary back.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, girls, that I had to go there. Actually, the call came through on my mobile and it just cut it off. And anyway, I couldn't get back then until now. So sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Thanks for having for coming back, because you're an artist. So what is your perspective with the art of DNA programming through art?
Well, the word perspective, I suppose, Martina, is really interesting for me. And when Tanya was talking as well, and I was thinking and feeling that life is art, and how we approach doing the painting, how we approach the blank canvas is very much actually too, metaphor for how we approach our life. And I did have an incident, with family member over the last while. Things have been going so fast, actually. I can hardly keep up, as I said the last time. But it was quite a big thing for this particular person. And they came to me and they were talking about it, and their friends were saying, they had their perspective on it, and everybody had a different perspective. And I could see that the person that was coming to me was swaying with all the different perspectives. And I said, listen, just stand back a minute from everyone's perspective here and look at what it is you want to choose, because we choose our perspective. Choose how you're going to respond to this. Choose, is it a big deal or is it not? And I actually, for myself, as I was saying it, and I thought, yeah, that is actually the formula for life for me, because I can choose whether I'm going to be upset or I'm not, whether it's a lesson, whether it's a blessing, whatever it is. I can choose that. And when I'm doing art, I remember when I was doing art with, I used to do art at one stage with a lecturer from the College of Art and Design, and she was really gifted. She was a Greek lady, but she came up to me one day and she said, you love doing the art, don't you, Mary, and all this? And I said, I do. I absolutely do. I lose all track of time. And I've been doing art actually all my life. Well, I know I said life is art, but I've actually been painting all my life. And even as a child, I was always painting. And she said, when you're painting, there's in the picture, there's something about what you're doing that takes the inside and you put it out there. But she said, you always take the outside and you bring it in. And I just stood up and looked and I thought, wow, I had never thought about that. But again, isn't that what we do on our life's journey? Isn't that how we engage with that whole process of life? So I think you asked me about the deprogramming or the recalibrating of the DNA. I think every time we engage artistically and soulfully, we're recalibrating. We don't even have to be standing in front of a canvas, because life is a canvas.
Beautifully said, yeah.
So there were the thoughts that were running through my mind as I was listening to you earlier before I got cut off.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And from my experience, it's an interesting practice to paint or draw on a small canvas or on a small piece of paper, and then change it into a big one and see if the joy, if the whole perspective changes.
Yeah.
Because
It's about expansion, isn't it? When, can you expand out to engage with the big canvas? And when children, and that's another thing I was going to say. Sorry, now I better say it because I'll forget it. And I know I'm saying a lot now at the moment, but it's just because I'm playing catch up. I haven't been on. When I worked in the school, I used to do an awful lot of art with the children. And what was beautiful about that was that when they did art, the turnip was the head, the twigs of the tree was the arm, the carrots was the feet, the squash was the body. And it was like everything was art. Absolutely everything was art. And there was little buttons put into their, turnip to give it eyes. And it was just magnificent, I have to say, working with them and seeing what they were able to do, because they were so untouched. They were still working from that place within themselves that hadn't been programmed, if you like, or maybe not here anyway. I'm sure we all have it coming in, but not yet here. So their artistic flow seemed very creative and undisturbed. And it was lovely to work with that. And they did the most beautiful things, and the pictures and everything else, but so simple, and using just nature, and everything was possible and everything was art. Like as adults, I suppose, when I used to go to the art classes, I'd be trying to do something, the right way. And really with the kids, everything was the right way. There was just no wrong way. you know, so it makes you wonder, is everything the right way about the way we approach life? It is in the given moment, yes. Because I think as we reflect on it and we look at the perspective, we can see a different way. But it's not right or wrong. Now, sorry, I'll get off the soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all a
No.
matter of perspective, right?
Yeah,
And what we
Yeah.
need in the moment, or what we're sharing in the moment.
It goes back to non-judgment. We would be happy with how we approach things the first time if we didn't judge how they
Yeah.
come. I love working on a big canvas. I don't like to be hemmed in by anything small. I like to think big and have lots of space for it to become whatever it wants to become. And I have a lot of people that tell me that what holds them back from starting to paint is what if they don't like it? Like, well, the worst thing that can happen is that you don't like what you did and you just paint over it. And I really love doing paint overs because I think you feel the frequency of the original painting and the new one. So
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
vibe.
Mm.
So you said something profound here for us to remember, you know, with the deprogramming. When the frequency of the old program is still available because energy cannot be destroyed. So we can paint over, but the old frequency is still there. And then it's just a matter of, you know, what am I choosing? And this is from a deprogramming perspective, really, really important, because you can uncreate whatever habitual pattern that doesn't serve you anymore and create a new one, but it's still your responsibility to not choose the old one anymore that is still in the quantum field, right?
Yeah.
And this is that just reminded me, as you were saying, you know, yes, we can overpaint, and I love overpainting. I like the idea of recycling and creating something new out of the old and that kind of thing. And from that programming perspective, just remind yourself that all is available. Limitless potential includes everything and judges nothing.
And there can be something too in the old programming that's of value, you know, even though we're trying to recalibrate, but there can always be something of value to take with us or to dip back into whenever it feels right to do so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the whole point, right? Going back into the past and you know, pulling lessons and learnings from that past.
Yes.
Harvesting the rich seeds and not throwing the proverbial baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly.
Exactly. The art of DNA programming. There's millions more things that we can discuss and think about. I think we're coming towards the end. Is there anything you ladies want to throw in before we're going to close down our gathering today?
Well, all this talk about art and stuff like that, it's just like encouraging me to like, I bought all this canvas and paint and easel and everything, and they're just sitting there because I can't seem to find the time yet to sit down and play with all this stuff. But now I feel even more encouraged to get my garden put in even faster and get going with my painting.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And you know what, Ilana, the way I do it as well, and you know, I mean, Jen's got her studio at work, so you can have it all. You can be totally hedonistic and have your cake and eat it. Not necessarily at the same time, but because, you know, you draw maybe for half an hour and then the picture needs to do its own thing anyway. You need a different perspective. So you walk away, you go back into your garden, right? And then once you're done with it, mix it up. That limitless potential is, it's almost like, just recognizing that you know, it's also time. Time is changing, and we don't need to spend much time on one particular thing for a long time, but keep coming back to it. And I find as well that every time I keep coming back, the painting looks different and something else wants to, or I turn it round, you know, I do this all the time. I just keep turning the canvas around. And I do this with my black and white doodle as well. Keep turning it until it shows itself to me what it wants to, you know, be seen as.
That's fabulous, Martina. I can just picture, you know, you turning it around like that. And again, of course, I'm constantly thinking about life as you're talking and thinking of all the times we do that in our lives, on our journey, and see what emerges, you know, from that.
Thanks for making that connection, actually, because this is how I live my life. I keep turning the canvas continuously. You're absolutely right. And the reason why I do it is because I have no preconceived idea what I want to draw, you know? And in reality, I could look at this and say, well, actually, I can't draw properly. So, but that's actually not what I need to focus on. It may be that, but it's only, I'm not choosing to learn. I've never chosen to learn, just as much as I've never chosen to learn how to play music. I can't read a single note. That's a choice that I'm making because purpose is the wrong word, but my choice is to work by changing the canvas around and allow the canvas to show itself, whatever picture wants to come through.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. I love that image. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's the way I work, but neither is right or wrong. But this is why, you know, one child who wants to draw properly is freaking out with me when I do this, you know, because he knows how to draw. He's learned every single stroke professionally. And I said, look, it's your choice to be here. You can move on. We do contemporary. Okay,
And also, Martina, his time will come where he can be part of your canvas, because as you're turning it around and turning it around, you know, and you're forming something, when you want to be specific, you can call him in because he will be very good at being specific and giving you the defined lines and all of that. So he'll have his time, but he has to wait for you to turn it around first.
Yeah. No, he's okay. He's determined. He's very determined to stay and stick it out. And I'm very happy to have him on my team.
Yes.
So Martina, I put the picture in the chat there. Does that remind you of a picture that you would do? Drawings that you would do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you see the dragon on the top?
Yes, I can. Beautiful.
It's like it's through a slit because behind the drawing, it's an actual wall there. And if you look at it, it's like a slit that the dragon is coming through because you can see a little white tip on the back side of it.
Absolutely. It looks like a portal where he's coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. Amazing. Oh, thanks for sharing. Yes.
Sure.
Can you see the dragon? Yes, I can. Sorry, guys, whoever reads the
Can you see it, Mary?
No, I'm sorry, Lana.
Okay.
I can't. I'm not
I think
able
she
to
came in too late. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
I
repaste it.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Lana. Or maybe if you could put it up on the other chat.
Do us a favor, Lana, and just post it once I post the replay because it's a nice one to see.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Like the dimensional co-creation, limitless potential, and all of that. Fantastic.
So we've talked a lot about art today, like drawing and painting, but I just want to say that don't be limited by, you know, we don't have to be limited by the medium of drawing and painting because really life is art, right?
Yes.
Cooking is art and gardening is art and dancing is art and play is art. So, you know, if someone's not inclined to pick up a pen and paper or pick up paints, there's so many ways that you can artistically explore life.
Absolutely.
That is true.
And that's thank you for reinforcing that. And also, you know, we're all artists, like Mary said, life is art and all of that. But it's like we can really work on our artist eyes without even picking up a paintbrush or a pen, and just looking at the world through those eyes of an artist. Even if you like just take a photograph of something, you know, what you consider worth, you know, passing on. And this is why, you know, social media is so great. Just post it. I mean, the Instagram, for me, it's like I just have my pictures out there. And sometimes I just look at all my pictures, all the photographs, everything that I've done, just as these are digital photo albums, right?
Mm.
Nobody needs to look at them. You did it for yourself. But those artist eyes, because artist eyes, beyond like what Tanya just said, they're curious observer eyes, sacred, neutral, curious observer eyes. And when we can sort of cultivate those eyes, the whole world, the reality that we perceive, we create.
I love that. And I remember the lecturer that was teaching me, you know, in our class, she used to put down, we say, a piece of a tree or something that she had picked up from outside. And she would say, "What do you see?" So, of course, instantly we'd all see the obvious. We'd see, oh, you know, there's the little stem and it's kind of brown and kind of grey, and then there's the little green leaves. And she'd say, "And what else?" And we'd see nothing. We'd say, no, that's it. But she always encouraged us and really brought us on the journey of seeing beyond. And when you're saying about the artist's eyes, Martina, I think the artist's eyes always sees beyond something. They can see beyond what's in front of them. And again, perspective is what's coming into my head. You know, it is seeing that, and it's seeing the unseen, because when we would be forced to look, there were a lot of other colors in the green leaf that we actually were skimming over, partly because our belief system as well said, well, the leaf is green, and we weren't looking for anything else in it. But when she said, no, look again, and she might say, look around the edge, you know, and we would see the different colors. And when we go to paint that, she would never accept a green leaf. We always had to paint beyond that, the other colors that were there. So I think the artist's eyes term is really interesting, and it's really expansive.
Out creation.
Yeah.
That an artist's eye is having an appreciation for more than what's on the surface.
Yeah.
Being able to see beyond, yeah. I've done my that thing comes to mind as you're speaking, Mary. I've done my What's Driving Us course last week.
Okay.
And you know, obviously the whole genre is about rules and safety through adhering to the rules. And that in itself is getting increasingly difficult in a world where rules are just being stacked upon us and us. And, you know, so for me, I appreciate that, you know, on the road, there are rules, and certain rules really make sense. And intuitive driving is obviously beyond what is being appreciated. I can understand all that. But it doesn't work for me to buy into this is the all and end. There have to be rules in order for us to be safe on the road. And I thought, okay, well, it's no point to face that. There's no point to resist that, especially not on a course like that, even though I did drop a line of saying that rules piss me off, which of course make absolutely no sense in the context of that course. But anyway, but then I had this out creation. I had to look through my artist eyes without painting, like we just said. And I said to myself, how can I out create this? How can I go beyond the rules and the safety ideas that is being, you know, stuck down your throat here. And my closing words, we all had to do closing words. And I had this idea for myself that I no longer do driving as a necessity to get me from A to B. But I had this idea of saying driving for me is a spiritual practice from now on. I didn't say spiritual because that would have been totally over the top. I said mindfulness practice. For me to work with curious observation. And that's the only way for me to do it now. And it's like, hey, I'm not a ritualistic person anyway, ceremonial necessarily. I'm too, you know. But I do a lot of what is already, you know, in our reality, and I make it into a ceremony. The driving I hadn't done. So now I'm doing that too. And I've done 2 drives since then. I haven't really been driving a lot, but and it really made a difference for me having out-created and looking at it from my artist eyes, saying, no, this is curious observation. I'm looking at everything. Okay, there's this. I'm talking to myself. Okay, and it's taken out the resistance. It's still ridiculous, you know, on so many levels, but it has now become a mindfulness practice. And I think I just wanted to add that, to take our daily activities and beyond becoming an artist and making them into our mindfulness, spiritual practice, ceremony, ritual, and see how that impacts on our DNA programming and reprogramming.
And that kind of the art of the shaman is to make everything that you do sacred without having the slit of your eyes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you approach everything with a level of intention and sacredness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does change everything, even difficult things. I used to find that I used to try and do mindfulness and I was going through a job I didn't like. And it actually, I did arrive at the place different, you know, when I sort of did mindfulness and thanked everything on the way, and the trees and the birds and the sun and the car. And I did arrive differently.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point, Martina, you're making there about, you know, it's so easy just to forget that. And it's just so simple actually to do it, you know, but we kind of forget to do it sometimes. I do anyway.
Well, it's art creation. We talk about art creating all the time, right? It's no point to resist your resistance, because you're resisting it for a reason.
Yes, yeah.
And the majority of our resistance has a valid point.
That's
you know,
true.
I'm not saying all of it, but it gives us a certain benefit, you know. And sometimes it works against me. Of course it works against me. Otherwise I wouldn't have, like, you know, wrote what do you call those tickets all the time, speeding tickets, this ticket. So it doesn't work for me. I'm not saying that love your resistance and stick to it because it's fun. Out-create it. And that's what it's really, it's an honoring of your DNA. Okay, we haven't talked about the honoring of your DNA. Okay, you've come in for a reason with a specific DNA, and there are certain times where you want to deprogram yourself, reprogram, out-program, and all of that.
Absolutely. And the resistance too is there, as you said, for a reason, and it's not always a bad thing.
No, sometimes
it can work for us, you see, as well. Yeah. Sorry, you were going to say.
I'm a big sucker for, I like it. I like resistance.
Yeah.
Always shows me, and I'm no longer attracting it that much either. So just because you like something doesn't mean that you have to now attract it all the time. Okay, this is also something that is changing. But for me, it's the contraction, the tension is a sign of growth. It's an invitation for growing. And to be honest, if you understand how reality works, there is no growth without that tension, because that tension, that attraction is your inhalation. And your manifestation is your exhalation. And if you tell me that you don't do tension and resistance, then you're not alive, because you're no longer breathing. Because that's what inhalation is. And as long as we keep inhalation, exhalation balanced, we're going to be okay. All right, girls, ladies.
Next week, solstice.
Good.
Oh, it's
Let's see what we
really
can come
fun.
up with. Do we want to do something, or are you guys going to be busy? Or we're doing, well, we'll talk about it. We'll see.
I think it's the day after. It's Thursday.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's like a 1:30 in the afternoon Pacific time on Thursday. So
All right. Well, maybe we
Alright.
can do something slightly, what's the word? Practical. Well, we always do practical stuff, but more, what's the word?
Special.
Special. We
celebratory.
do special every week. Anyway,
Yes.
something, no, what's the word? Experiential.
Experiential.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you all.
All right, ladies.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everyone.
coming
Thanks.
out.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye bye.